Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special presentation by the Australian Kirk Minahan Fan Club. I'm the founder of the club, Menas. I am also still alive. I haven't been fucked to death by koalas, so stick it up your ass, Steve. And joining me for this special presentation from Down Under, I have the Aussie Stoolie. How are you?
G'day, Menas. Not too bad. How you going?
Yeah, really well. Whereabouts are you in Australia for the Americans over there?
If
I have no idea about us.
If you got off the plane at Sydney Airport and drove towards Canberra, I'm about halfway in Mossvale, in the Southern Highlands.
I have no idea where that is. I'm about
probably
a
not.
15-minute drive from the Opera House because that's pretty much, I reckon, all of Kirk's fans will know because they don't look like the most well-travelled bunch. For the Americans out who are watching this, it's Friday night here and it's Friday morning in Boston, so we haven't heard the Friday show. So, something amazing might happen and we won't talk about it. It's summer here for those Americans. So it was 40 degrees Celsius yesterday. So complete opposite to you guys freezing your ass off in Boston or wherever you are in the States. I was at the beach today swimming. I'm sure you've been doing the same, Aussie Stoolie.
I've been at work in the air-conditioned cab of a train just the way I like it.
Okay, so I had a better day. So for the Yankees out there, that's us. We're from Down Under, and we wanted to do this presentation to sort of pave the way for Kirk to come down here, and also just to give you a bit of an idea of the sort of support the show has in Australia and how much it means for this country to be associated with the greatest podcast in the world. But I've got to say, it was a controversial weekend, Stoolie, because I just said some honest opinions about Steve on Mike and the Minifans or Mike and the Monologues, and he just went off. I'm surprised they even played the audio, but what do you think? You a Steve guy?
I do like Steve. I think some of the stuff he comes up with just adds to the content. I can't hate the guy. Sometimes he can be incredibly boring and doesn't really get a feel for what Kirk's looking for, but other times he's the reason for some of the better episodes that we've had. Like the Ants and Ants debate was insane. Both their reactions to that was crazy. So I can't hate him. He's just weird, but he fits the Miniverse really well.
Yeah, I don't hate him, but my point is he's just very, very replaceable. That if a new producer came in next week, Kirk and Blind Mike would have just as much fun as with a new producer, and perhaps would get a bit more shenanigans and a bit more sort of harebrained stuff because you don't have some producer that just wants to talk about the Republican Party the whole time.
I often think about what the show would be like if Mark Moroso was there, or who shall not be named. It would probably be a bit more putting shit on the producer because, Mark Moroso is that type of guy. But then, as Kirk always says, we'd never hear any of the show because he'd never record it or he'd miss bits or cut bits out. So you take the good with Steve. And I get that he talks a lot of politics, particularly about the Republican Party. And for us in Australia, it's not a massive deal, but, I'll take that. Listening to Kirk and Callahan, you get that crap from Jerry all the time anyway. So kind of just numb to it.
Well, he's also a pathological liar.
Oh, yeah.
What I can't understand about Steve is he's not a normal person. Like, he doesn't deal with people normally. So, a very strange person. I find him, just very difficult. And, look, I think he does a good job. But I just think what you mentioned of the Kirk and Callahan show is a really good example that, Kirk was able to make Ken Laird the most boring person in the world, an interesting character.
Yeah, exactly.
And
look at him now.
Exactly.
It's a funny one. I like Steve. Obviously, like you said, he is a pathological liar. Like, obviously, he lied about, getting fucked to death by koalas because if he knew anything, that's kind of not possible. But you just look at the list of things that he's lied about constantly. It's kind of what makes the show. There's so many episodes. That parody song, Steve's a Liar, on my top 5 rank. Oh, yeah.
That's Top Gun 1,000 times.
Yeah. If you watch the movie 1,000 times, you would remember 1,000 times. You'd remember it line for line. Like, there's some movies that I've watched 10 times and I can almost recite the whole way through. So, he's I think there's a bit of truth to what Blind Mike says, that maybe he's not quite 30. Maybe he is, around that 50, 60, maybe even 70 mark. And for some reason, he just hasn't aged.
Yeah, and he's certainly got some strange personality disorder where he can't tell the truth or multiple personalities. I don't know what it is. I feel sorry for him having to suffer. I also think Kirk is probably looking for a new producer behind the scenes. I know he's obviously not going to say it on air, but I think Steve showed his true colours that if you just push him a little bit too far, he sort of sooks and whinges. And, I'm sure with the elections coming up in America that there's a lot of opportunities for him to get back into political talk. And I wouldn't be surprised if he's looking. And if I was Kirk, I would be starting to work out a plan B. So if Steve gives his notice one day, you've got someone lined up other than Dave Cullinane.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're both Cullinane guys, so it would be good to have him back on, but he's not quite the Steve type producer. Technically, he's really good. He adds a little bit to the content, but yeah, I think maybe Kirk might be looking in the background for a new producer, because he's right. When Steve said, "Oh yeah, when they had that big discussion after the amazing episode where Kirk just blew him out for 2 hours," the fact that Steve said he was looking kind of says that he maybe isn't happy with the current situation. No, he says that he is off the mic and off air, but the show is on air. Kirk doesn't talk to people off air because he wants it all to be on the show. He doesn't want anything hidden in the background. It has to be on the show. And, for Steve to be happy with Kirk the way he is off air, he also has to be happy with what Kirk is on the mic. And that's why so many people love him, is because Kirk is the way Kirk is. He'll confront you. He'll have a fight with you. He'll have an argument with you just because he just doesn't want to. Yeah, he's a genius. He doesn't want to hide these things. He has his feelings and his opinions, and he's going to get them out there. He doesn't want to talk about them behind closed doors because no one's going to hear it and no one's going to care.
And the only reason Steve is entertaining is because Kirk is smart enough to pick on pick up every lie, every piece of bullshit, every kind of weird thing he says. Kirk is ready to pounce on it. So look, as I said, I just think Steve's replaceable. He does a very serviceable job. I know he works extremely hard. He built that studio for Podcast Jesus. So, when he's gone in a couple of months, he will have left kind of a lasting legacy, I think, which will live on. I mean, in a few years when we look back at the history of the show, he will have been a minor part in its sort of formation. So that's where I am with that. Look, it was a big moment for the fan club, the Australian Kirk Minahan fan club, and me, Menas, to get played on the main show. Like Mike and the monologues, I mean, Mike and the Minifans is amazing. But to get played on the real show, and for Kirk to say he likes the Australian guy, which I know he's probably going to, after this episode, go on and say fucking hates us. But for him to say that, it was just what the fan club needed. And I think when they eventually make it to Australia, they're going to be blown away with the support they have.
Oh yeah, definitely. If they ever come to Australia, obviously we're going to have at least 250 fans there ready to go to pay 150 a ticket. I think Mike said that would be $3,700 or something like that. So $3,000
or something.
Yeah, a little bit off with the maths, but yeah, I think they will be blown away about how much. Like, there's me, yourself, there's Andy from, I think he's over in South Australia on Twitter. Like, we're pretty passionate Minifans, and
there's a few others who've reached out since the last show.
Exactly, yeah. We're starting to see more and more come out. I'm trying to promote it around to my friends, but when you say, "Oh yeah, there's this awesome podcast," you can't describe it. You play a parody song, but it doesn't link up to anything. You can't really describe it.
Fuckhead Steve had made a decent year in review, we might have had something to give to all our mates to listen to. Instead, he produced a 7-hour piece of shit that no one would want to listen to the show afterwards.
Yeah, I feel like if I am going to show it to my friends and family, it'll be the real DEC version on the Minifan show podcast, because his was just amazing. The way he did the background from WEI, then brought it all into where he is at Barstool, that was perfect. Steve and Blind Mike, that was shocking, and hopefully Blind Mike learns for next year when they do the end of year one. If Steve's still there, hopefully they've both learned, but hopefully Blind Mike can take some lessons out of this year.
Yeah, so I guess just it was, I guess, the greatest moment of my personal or professional life being played on the Kirk Minahan show. So thank you, Steve, for doing that, even though it must have sort of, been galling to hear that audio again. I believe you're being shut out from Mike and the Minifans. What's going on there?
Yeah, I was supposed to be on it was like a month ago now, but Real MHB came back. That happened to be the weekend he came back and had the big fight with DEC. So spoke to intern Justin. He said, yeah, we'll bump you to next week. And I've heard nothing since. I'm so keen to go on. Occasionally work sort of dicks me around because I'm a shifty. But, man, if he says, yeah, you're on this weekend, I'm on this weekend, I'll drop as much as I can to get on that show, because it'd be good to just shoot the shit with other Minifans and just sort of keep getting in, building that community and talking about the best podcast in the world.
Yeah, it's great to be on. Definitely do it. My bit of advice to you is you've just got to interrupt Mike
Yeah,
more than anybody. The other guests, give them their chance, but Mike just kind of speaks a lot. It
yep,
is his show, and he's very entertaining. But because he's blind, like you can't do hand signals. Like
yeah,
I've done videos like that before, video podcasts. If you really want to say something, you wave, and the
yep.
person kind of gives you an in. But with him, he'll just keep going. So just get in there. You got to do it. Otherwise, you'll sort of spend an hour and you'll say like a few sentences.
Yeah, and you'll have missed your chance. You'll come off boring. But yeah, no, I kind of when I watched you on the last one, I kind of thought that's exactly what I've got to do. I've got to butt in a bit more. I know TJ Hubbard does the same thing. R.A. Minahan does the same thing when he's on there. Because otherwise, Mike's just going to go for 20, 30 minutes at a time and no one will get a word in. And
Especially
while
after
he
he's
isn't,
had half a dozen Michelob Ultras or something.
yeah,
Can't shut
exactly.
him up.
He's 3 in before it even starts. So you got to get on top of that. Otherwise, yeah, it's going to be a little bit of not a boring night because he's entertaining, but you're not going to get your say.
That's right. You're not going to get your tag at all. Look, there's been a big sort of furor on the Kirk Minahan show this week where it's all kicked off between Kirk and Jerry. Started with
Again.
some ad reads about the Athletic.
Mm.
I have to say, as much as I love Kirk and, most of what he says, I'll get on board with. I can't get on board with this one. I don't think Jerry did anything wrong accepting the Athletic sponsorship, because I think if Kirk and Blind Mike and Steve want writers to take risks, then, these organizations that, like the Athletic, have to let people like Stephen Buckley write absolute shit sometimes.
Yeah.
Unlike the Boston Globe, they weren't systematically trying to take down Kirk and Jerry. So, yeah, I think Kirk went way overboard. I'm still subscribed to the Jerry Callahan podcast. In fact, I went on and gave him 5 stars after Kirk said to give him 1 star, because Jerry's kind of like my radio dad. And, yeah, I'm not on board with Kirk on this one. How about you?
Well, I listened to today's podcast just because I know yesterday's one, Jerry sort of answered back about it. But when you say about the 5-star rating, it doesn't really matter for us because I don't see the Australian ones over there. So it kind of sucks because, I've left ratings on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify for the Kirk Show, but none of it's going to get seen over there. But
Actually, they do, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's a lot of the hosts now will aggregate all the reviews from around the world.
Oh, nice.
So they may well see it.
So I may do a 1-star for Jerry's podcast. I'm gonna feel it out. Kirk and Callahan were amazing to me. An Australian guy listening to a Boston radio station doesn't make sense, but they were just the best.
I guess this is a good point, Jay. Tell us when you found Kirk and how.
This is going to be really bad, and Kirk, and if Jerry ever hears this, will probably hate me, but I used to listen to the Dan Le Batard show, and I know Jerry hates him because he's a bleeding heart liberal from Miami, but they talked about one of the episodes, Dan was crying on the show, and I think his co-host Stu Gotts was talking about how, who's been shitting on you, and then Dan guessed it was a radio station from Boston, and I decided to Google and have a listen to it, and I fell in love, stopped listening to Dan Le Batard pretty much that day, and was a Kirk and Callahan fan from that moment. That was 2016, maybe. It was around that bloody Jose Fernandez boat crash thing. And yeah, I've loved them ever since. I've loved all the whack packs. I like Rima. I'm probably one of the few people that likes Rima.
I'm a big Rima fan too.
There you go. There's 2. He's big down here. He should come down here. I like Jolik. Tomasi was he was okay. I could deal with him. I hated Trenny. She was just annoying and boring. And I love Mutt. Like, even now, even when Kirk was going through what he was going through, I loved Mutt. I thought he was hilarious. I thought the way Kirk put shit on him every single episode was the greatest. And yeah, it's when Kirk went off the air for his mental health issues and they stopped letting him back on, I started to slowly hate and despise EEI. And I was a Red Sox fan up until, it was pretty much found out that they were the reason why Kirk's no longer on EEI. They broke up the best sports radio talk show in America and arguably the world, because we don't have anything like that over here. So yeah, that's how I found Kirk and Callahan, and that's why I followed him to Boston. I was a Stoolie as well. I liked part of my take, spitting chicklets, and I listened to the rundown a lot. So a bit of a college football fan, so I got into there through there. But yeah, when he went over to Barstool, for me it was a match in heaven. I was Aussie Stoolie, and then Kirk came over and he mentioned me as the Australian Barstool guy, so that became my Twitter name, and now it's just Aussie Minifan because I don't know if I identify as a Stoolie anymore, just purely because the divide and the fight constantly between Kirk and Barstool headquarters in New York is, I got to take my guy's side. I got to back Kirk.
So we've just lost the Aussie Stoolie there. He's coming back.
I'm back. Yeah, you just froze.
I froze and you froze.
Yeah.
So look, mine's a similar story to yours, and I think it is a testament to Kirk's genius that two random Aussie guys would listen to a Boston radio station for not very long. And look, I used to download the podcasts of the Kirk and Callahan show. That's how I keep up. But it is a testament to his godlike status that he can draw two guys from Australia into his web like this. And once you're a Minifan, you're a Minifan for life. So
oh yeah. I'm getting this shirt tattooed like all the other Minifans. I'm going to do it. I'll have to pay for mine. I won't be able to go over there and get it for free, but it's just a thing I've got to do. I have tattoos already, so it's not a big deal. It's not like it's my first, but to honor Podcast Jesus, I got to go ahead and get that tattoo. And my missus thinks it's a silly idea and a stupid idea, but you get things that you love tattooed on your body, and the podcast is amazing. I don't know if I could live without it.
Yeah, when I tried to explain to my wife why I wanted to go to Madawaska, it was just impossible. Like, as the words started coming out, I just sounded so insane that I couldn't even finish the conversation. I just dropped it. I'm not even going to try because, she's going to have me, put in a mental home, and I'll never be out. I won't be able to see my kids. But you were talking about Jerry before I asked you about your story. So who are you on? Are you a Jerry guy? Are you a Kirk guy? Has Kirk gone too far? Should he be, just not have taken that athletic thing so far? And poor Cullinane just copped it. He was like, he was almost like, what's that when someone gets shot? An innocent bystander that got shot.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I'm a Kirk guy, but, just knowing what Kirk's like, this is inevitable. Jerry said it today on his podcast that every month they'll have a blow up like this, but they'll still both admit that they love each other. Like, Kirk loves Jerry, Jerry loves Kirk. They're going to be friends for life. It's never going to change, but I get why Kirk is so pissed off because Buckley did write that hit piece and Jerry tries to blow it off like, oh, it wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad. But if my best mate came to me and said, yeah, this person shot me down, treated me like shit, I'm going to hate that other person. I'm not going to just completely dog my mate and start hanging out with that other guy.
But Buckley's just one rider with the Athletic. It's not the whole paper.
Yeah. And I like Evan Drellick, and I know he's the athletic guy that blew the whole Red Sox scandal over. I'll never subscribe because really that doesn't, to pay $10 a month to read articles doesn't interest me, but I get where Kirk's coming from that, Jerry, in Kirk's eyes, Jerry betrayed him, but then Kirk's also right that Jerry, it's a struggling startup podcast that's trying to make money. They've got to take every sponsor they can get. So deep down, I think Kirk realizes that is the case, that he's just trying to get a sponsorship to keep the money coming in because there's only so much money Shea Concrete can keep putting into that podcast. And, we all know Dave's selling abilities. They're not great. So he doesn't have much help there. So, yeah, I'm sort of split 50-50, but if it came down to it and you can only listen to one and they could find out, it'd be Kirk all the way. Sorry, Jerry, but, Kirk's podcast, Jesus.
I mean, Kirk's podcast is a lot better than Jerry's. That's the reality. I hope this presentation is nuanced enough for Evan Drellich. I'm sure he's still a Minifan. So, look, I guess we're sort of coming to the end of our presentation for the Americans, but I think it's important to touch on what Kirk said about coming to Australia to tour. So I've got a few things to work towards in the club. Firstly, I'm working toward Minicon 2025 in Sydney. So I know he's working on a Minicon in America this summer. I'm working on Minicon 2025 because I think that the Minifans need 5 years to save their pennies for a trip down under. Kirk said he needs 250 fans. I've started the countdown. So we've got 243 to go because Latino Kirk fan said he would come to Australia for the performance. So we need 243. I'm sure I can flog easily 40. So we really need 200 hardcore fans.
Well, I think DD, or Minifan Wives on Twitter, and obviously her husband, I reckon they'd come out for an Australian show. Minifan Wives has been obsessing over our accents being Australian, so I reckon they'd be keen to come. All the big names, I'm sure, would come to Australia. DEC, I think Kevin from Bristol might come. I'd love to see Steve from Providence out there. He's sort of kept in touch with me because the bushfires here are pretty close to my house, so he's kept tabs on making sure I'm okay. I reckon, we'd get a few of the big names, but we need to grow it here. We need to have enough people here so we can get together in Sydney and have a Minifan year in review listen party. We can all get together and listen to the year in review podcast next year and see how it goes. Yeah.
So I just wanted to go through the economics of what Kirk said. So 250 Minifans paying $150 each. So he didn't specify the currency. So say that's Australian dollars. I've got some bad news here for Kirk. So that's 37,500 Aussie dollars. That's only about 25,000 US dollars. So that takes a bit out of the budget. And then I was looking at the flights to come here. Now, I've had a great idea to save money. If Steve's still with the show, he actually doesn't have to come down under because, I could easily produce the show while Kirk to save on that airfare. And that's instantly saved a big chunk of money. And it's a 21-hour flight from Boston to Sydney. You'd have to stop in LA or Dallas or somewhere like that. So I suggest they definitely go at least business, maybe first class.
Kirk's gone first class.
Absolutely. So business class tickets are about 2,000-3,000 US to get here. And the first class are about 4,000-5,000 US to get here. So that's about 6,000-7,000 in airfares. Kirk flying first class, Blind Mike in business, but Blind Mike could fly economy. He'll just be happy to get out of the country and the state of Massachusetts.
That's it, yeah.
And if Steve's not coming, that obviously saves a huge sort of chunk of money.
And then you just look at hotels. I mean, in Sydney, you can get really good 5-star hotels for 350 Aussie a night. So they stay for the week like they want to. That's not too bad. That's around $1,500. They're making a huge amount of profit. Not to mention, if they set up a merch stand outside wherever they decide to do it, if they get a nice cheap venue, like if you don't go with the Opera House, you go somewhere smaller, maybe looking at, even for the Opera House, probably only 15-20 grand to hire it for a little small show. So if they do sell the merch and maybe do some other things around, some side events that they can charge tickets to, they could make a decent amount of profit there. So I think it's definitely viable. We just got to get those fans together.
That's right. And if they were to come and do like 5 shows, as they said, like a week's worth of podcasts, we could sell out every show. They wouldn't, you and I would go to every one. We could
I'd take that week off.
Venues, big venues. So there's lots of ways to making money. And also I think I guess they don't realize, but in this, tiny little sort of backwater of the world, Australia, we don't get a lot of international acts. So if Kirk came, we could certainly get other people to come to his shows just because, he's from America. He's a star in America. So people would come for that. So I reckon we could easily sell out the shows. If Steve didn't come, it would save a lot of money. And I think it's a big plan. I've been researching the top 10 golf courses in Australia. And if they were to come to Sydney, for example, we have the 4th best in Australia, the New South Wales golf.
Oh, it's amazing.
By the water there. Have you been there?
Yeah, I haven't been there, but I've driven past it 1,000 times just there on Southern Cross Drive. It's amazing. I'd love to play it. Love to play it with Kirk. I know it's a bit expensive, but
look, I've got some connections there. I've got some friends who are members, so Kirk comes, I can get him on there. And then perhaps he wants to head down to Melbourne to play in Royal Melbourne, or head up to Queensland where there's tons of some golf courses. He might want to bring the whole Minahan family out for an extended vacation. So there's so much to offer in our country.
They could time it when WWE comes out here, so you could take Harry to, I don't know what it's called anymore, where the Sydney Kings play out at Olympic Park, and he could watch the WWE there. But hey, you could go watch a rugby league game, take in a cricket Big Bash game or something like that. Like, there's plenty to do when he comes to Sydney. Like, it's not a boring city. He'll find something for the family to do. Taronga Zoo is an amazing place to go. Families love visiting there. The aquarium is, it's okay, but there's plenty for him to do if he does decide to bring the family. Maybe make it a 2-week stay, so he can do some work in the first week. Then they can take a week off, do some pre-recorded shows or whatever, and then he can spend some time with the family, kick Mike back home. Even Steve and Mike might be able to do Mike and the Minifans for a week while Kirk's enjoying a nice holiday over here.
And one thing I tried to say on Mike and the Minifans, which I think Kirk would like, is that there is kind of an Australian thing where you like to leave people alone. Like, you'll be friendly, but especially if someone like Kirk gives off that energy and people will just ignore him, and he will love it. And there's so much space here, you get out of the inner city, he just roam. He'll just be able to roam free with no other people, which will be heaven for him.
Yeah, that's it. Like, and because he'll be big by then, like obviously he'll be massive. That's why he's coming. But like you said, I could see him in the street while I'm working, see him walking down one of the main streets in Sydney, and I probably wouldn't have the balls to go up and say, hey, and that's basically what most of Australia is like. We just don't. We feel like, we'll give you your space. You're a celebrity. You probably don't want to deal with me right now. I'll just leave you alone. Possibly I might go up to him and harass him a little bit just because it is Podcast Jesus, but only once.
Yeah.
The rest of the time I'll just keep my distance.
Something and let him move on.
Yeah, then I'll just keep my distance and just follow him around the city from safe 150 to 200 meters. Nothing creepy.
Well, Aussie Still, I think we better wrap this up. I just think we should end it sort of where we begun, in that I'm really looking forward to, while Steve is in Madawaska preparing for the ice fishing, the real DEC will be producing the Friday podcast. And I think that Friday podcast could be a window into what the Kirk Minahan show could be like without the sort of weight that is pulling the show down in Steve Robinson. Like, I think we'll see a little bit more fun. DC's got a bit of a twisted sense of humor, so I think hopefully that'll come through in the show. So I don't know about you, but I'm really looking forward to that Friday show.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too. I'm a big DEC guy. I've spoken to him about hopefully being on the Minifan podcast eventually, and I think, he'll be great on the show. Not just, I think he can produce the podcast. I think he's really good with things like that. His technical ability is pretty good, but he also adds a lot to the content side. He is, he's a weird guy that likes to not feed his children. Well, one of his children, obviously he admitted that he feeds the other daughter. And there's something weird about him. There's a little bit of a creepy side to DEC that I think we're all starting to see a lot more of. And it's just going to add a little bit of a different configuration than the usual Steve, saying a word or, dropping an odd reference or a possible racial slur or religious slur that we didn't get to hear. I mean, DEC could do that, who knows? But, it's just going to be something exciting. Plus, you've got the creator of possibly the best parody song also producing the Thursday show, I think it's
That's right, yep.
So it's going to be an interesting 2 days. Let's just hope it gets up. Let's
I think it'll probably be the two best shows since Cullinane left producing the show. So look, viewers, thanks for watching this Australian special. Hopefully we can do it again. I'm not even sure what channel this is going to be on, whether it's going to be on the official Kirk Min Show YouTube, whether it's going to be on the Minifan Renegade channel. So thanks for watching. Aussie Stoolie, say goodbye to everyone.
See you later, everyone. Sorry, it's gotten a bit dark here. It's bloody nighttime here. But see you later. Hopefully talk to you again soon, and hopefully be on Mike and the Minifans again soon as well. Well, for the first time. And
thanks for watching. And I just hope Steve falls through the ice at Madawaska, gets trapped under the ice, and the Minifans get to watch him freeze to fucking death.